Hi, everyone. Is the fan too loud in the back? Do I have to turn it down or turn it off? Wish you could answer me as if we were just kind of talking, not in cyber world, but in the real world. If it is too loud, I will do something about it. But I've got someone on my lap. Yes, I have little one who's kneading furiously. So, hope you're all doing well. Let's see. Linty London, Sheepdog Patriot, Andrew Cruz, Rage Against the Machine, Phil Strange, Laura Flarson, Patricia White, Barb in Ohio, Mike Left, Alicia DeMoss, OK2, Killer Drums, BMCC, Space Indian, Crystal Ingram, Tom, Hypocrites Matrix, and Neil S. Super Painting 62. Hello. No answer about the fan. Oh, but guess what? Little one just jumped off, so I'm going to turn it down anyway. Well, Carol, not a problem. Good. I turned it down anyway. How you doing? How are you doing in our fabulously crazy world? Hope you're doing better than I am. Let's get to it. I guess I'll first OK is pronounced Hawkeye. Well, you should have just wrote Hawkeye. Hawkeye. The lovely Arizona sky. This was last night. Isn't it beautiful? Oh, wow. Mother Nature is amazing. God is amazing. I'm so grateful for these beautiful skies that we have. Filled with lithium, filled with black carbon dust. Filled. Gorgeous. Just ignore all of the toxic ingredients that you are looking at. Ignore all of those toxic ingredients that are, well, lethal to life itself. Beautiful. In Great Barrington, Massachusetts, when I would send videos like this off to my contact list, if anybody, well, one person said, take me off your contact list. And then I would get people, if they responded at all, oh my God, I'm so grateful to be living in the Berkshires. Such wonderful sunsets. They obviously do not see what I see. This looks like it's a weather front boiling up in the Gulf. Must be climate change, global warming. We've got quite the pulse up here in Maine. Boom. Yes, zap it. Boom. Alrighty. Got some supercell action. Pennsylvania. This is current radar. Is that going to swing on into Florida? If so, you have severe weather coming. What a surprise, Cecilia Amirati. Yeah. Curious, Georgia, hello. All right, so let's just get into it. Yeah. Hey, California. California is going to stay drought-free through 2025. Drought-free. Maybe that will mean fire-free, too. Maybe that will mean climate change has been put on hold. Oh, you can wish, you can pray, but it ain't gonna happen. Because of the 2 winters of epic storms. All of the snow. Well, combination of the abundance of rain and snow from the winter of 2022 and 2023, the state of the reservoirs, and what has happened this winter gives a high confidence that drought conditions will remain absent in California well into 2025. Yay, California. Yay. Nearly half of all young voters won't pay more than $10 per month to fight climate change, creating potential issue for President Biden campaigning on the existential threat. That existential threat, the voters ages 18 through 34. Okay, yeah, ooh, God. Ugh. How sorry are these quote-unquote elites? They get uglier and uglier. Gee, I wonder if it's because how they operate in life. So yeah, despite claims they are leading the charge on climate change, it turns out young people are actually just sheep in wolves' clothing. They demand climate action, but demand someone else pay for it. They disguise their rank hypocrisy by posturing as climate activists. Well, a whole lot of them are paid to get out there and activist-like. And why should they pay for it? Well, it's all based on a lie. Don't you wish the young would just look into it to find out? Hey, it's all based on a lie. You've been greatly manipulated. Why should you pay for something that is actually a lie? And why should you have to pay for something when you're being destroyed and you have no opportunity, unlike the older generations? Shouldn't it be the older generations paying for this lie? Tsunami wave in Oman, in the desert.
The information in the video shows an incident in Al Batina, Oman. The Wilayats of North Al Batina Governorate experienced varying intensities of rain accompanying.
Lots of flooding in desert areas now, huh? Isn't that Saudi Arabia has been hit with so many floods, and Oman and Djibouti, and there's Jordan, and oh man. Could it be weather modification? Hail you got going? No, it's climate change. It's climate change. It's climate change. Climate change. Climate change. That's pretty intense flooding. Alrighty, well, Uruguay really got hit hard.
Roads have turned into waterways with cars and small buildings floating along the flooded streets. The extent of casualties remains unknown as emergency services scramble to assess the situation and provide assistance.
Look at this. Look at this massive flooding. Wow. Wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow. What do you say anymore? Huh? What do you say? I present this so that my subscribers know that this is going on every single day, worldwide. Some country, some city is getting hit. Unveiling the devastating toll Texas Panhandle grapples with devastating losses as numbers emerge, and geez, a whole lot of cattle, thousands and thousands, are dead.
This is a monster fire. It's going to take days to get it put out. Numbers are going to go up.
Numbers that are already devastating for Texas. Multiple wildfires are still burning, with well over 1 million acres turned to ash. Thousands of livestock have been lost, and hundreds of homes and other structures decimated.
Our ranchers and our homeowners are hurting deeply.
For many cattle that have survived so far, there's no grass to eat and no water.
We've got over 120 miles of electric lines burnt and on the ground. That means these people have no electricity. There's no water to pump for the livestock.
In Hemphill County, nearly 80% of the land has been scorched. That's in the state's panhandle, where around 28% of the nation's beef herds are raised.
This is going to hurt our beef supply going forward in the nation.
Many cows that survived the initial flames now suffer with terrible burns and other injuries.
They're going to get pneumonia, they're going to get sick. We've already had to put some down.
Fire crews in Texas are banking on cooler temperatures in the region Monday to give them an edge over the wildfires, with Oklahoma Forestry Services saying they'll turn over the perimeter of the largest blaze, the Smokehouse Creek fire, to local departments in their state for containment. But the fire's impact could be felt nationally long after they are extinguished.
It takes years to put a cow herd together before they're productive and producing like they should be.
It's going to take maybe decades to get over this.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting for Ag Day.
And we all know it's deliberate. We're at war. Hello, Americans. Those of you who still refuse to look into or look beyond the mainstream media and government officials lying to you, how about it? Now's your chance. Become someone who breaks through the willful ignorance that you have.
The fires and what it could mean for beef prices at the grocery store, Larry.
Good morning. Yeah, the fires could cripple the cattle industry in the Panhandle for quite a while. It could be, they say, a generational hardship. I had a chance to speak with a livestock economist at Texas A&M who says this time of year that all this is happening is especially troubling for those ranchers. Not only have they lost cattle in the fires, they have lost newborn calves and cows close to birthing their calves. Added to all that, it just so happens that right now the industry price for cattle is close to an all-time record high. That is a staggering amount of money lost, with estimates of cattle going at around $3,000 a head. They've also lost infrastructure, equipment, miles of fencing, and acres of grass that is vital to the grazing for the future. There's no denying that this is devastating for those ranchers, but there's also the question, what does this mean for beef prices?
When we look at the whole industry, not only in Texas, but the whole U.S., we really don't expect any noticeable consumer price effects for beef or in terms of cattle prices either, for that matter. It's just that we have such a large industry in the whole U.S. that even big events like this are fairly localized.
That is good news for sure, but he also reminds that should not be anyway minimization of the crisis right now that those cattle ranchers and that industry is now facing in the Panhandle.
You can bet that those of you who eat beef, steak, whatever, oh, the prices are going to get so high. Can you believe what is going on? You know, when you think about empires dying, collapsing, do you think in the past that a whole lot of people saw things that a whole lot more didn't? They were trying to get through to people. Well, maybe they didn't have social media. Maybe it was a little harder. I don't know. But everything is so flippin' obvious now that it's really hard to take when you see Americans just, I mean, they're like little slugs plodding along in the pursuit of happiness. And this fire, man, Clinton Township in Michigan, explosive caught on camera by local resident. One of these canisters apparently hit a 19-year-old who is now dead.
It's in the middle of, you know where the 7-Eleven is?
Oh yeah, the ground
gas station right there.
I know.
Yeah. There's a gas station there just
It's almost like a firework display. Massive fires, massive fires, massive fires all over. Boeing gone. U.S. factory orders plunge, most since COVID lockdowns in January. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm losing my concentration with the noise. January saw the biggest plunge in non-defense aircraft and parts. Boeing since April 2019. But don't worry. Don't worry. Defense manufacturing has skyrocketed. The military-industrial complex is doing quite well. Okay? Don't you worry. It jumped 24% month over month. Wow! It's the same old issue again. Downward revisions. In the last 21 months, U.S. factory orders have been downwardly revised 16 times. What did I just read? The lying month over month is pretty consistent. Okay? They lie. Our government lies. Did you know that? Month over month with their numbers when they come out. Oh, we've got to revise those numbers. See, most people just see the actual numbers that come out month after month. And I don't know how many see the revision, the revised numbers. So how many people could believe that this Bidenomics is actually helping anyone? We're being so destroyed. Fuck it. And yes, I'll put the link in to the Money GPS, which I recommend that you check them out. Subscribe. And what does he say right up front?
Your money is not safe in the banks because this is the financial crisis, part 2. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you.
Okay, New York Community Bank agrees to buy a large portion of Signature Bank. Another bank is collapsing and everyone is alarmed. Yeah. And he says, get your money out of the banks. It ain't safe. And where is safe, huh? Where is safe? Well, 64-year-old man kicked onto New York City subway tracks.
Another shocking subway crime speaking out tonight.
He says he was standing on a platform at Penn Station when a man came up to him and then kicked him in the back, sending him onto the tracks. Fox 5's Linda Schmidt is live outside Penn Station. And Linda, what can you tell us tonight?
Yeah, well, this poor man is just trying to work and earn a living to support his family. And then this happens. He is a postal worker. He's married. He's got 2 kids who are in college. And again, he's saying that he's working to be able to pay for their college education. Well, yesterday, he says he was the victim of a random attack. Abu Khan in obvious pain, arriving home from the hospital. The postal clerk struggling to move. He says he has injuries to his leg, head, and back.
Is the back pain too much? Back is too much paining. They give the 3 times morphine, and then it's still back pain.
On Sunday afternoon, the 64-year-old was waiting on the E-train subway platform at Penn Station on his way home from work when he says a man approached him.
And he come to me and he asked me, I don't know what he asked me. I said, I don't understand what he said.
That's when he says the man walked behind him.
He kicked me in my back, and I threw out and fall onto the truck.
He says he hit his head and was confused as other riders pulled him back onto the platform just in time.
4 people.
34th and Penn Station. Man, did I spend a lot of time there. Nobody should be standing anywhere near the edge of the platform. Video shows Las Vegas area woman shooting neighbors. Okay.
There are 2 units sharing a wall and their backyard divided.
Our problem with you?
Documents say in the weeks before the shooting, Junio threatened the family after they reported her for HOA violations related to chickens and dogs. Nick Davey approaches Junio's door when she jumps out with a gun. She fires several times, striking Nick Davey and his wife.
Now, right now, Junio is in jail, a judge denying her bail. Her case will go before the Death Review Committee, and she's due in court later this month. Nick Davey.
HOA. Rules, regulations. Could be fatal. This guy.
So you can't see it.
Knocking out this kid, stealing his phone.
But on that other angle, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay. Be very aware of your surroundings.
We were with deputies today in DeKalb County as they evicted a group of suspected squatters from a home. The owner told us several people broke in last week, changed the locks while he was away caring for his sick wife. Channel 2's Tom Regan is live at Ashton Oak Circle in DeKalb County, where, Tom, I bet the homeowner is relieved to get his property back.
Oh, absolutely, Linda. Take a look over here. You can see the U-Haul there in front of the house. They are packing it with furniture and other belongings that are owned by the people who had been living in the house. Deputies moved in to evict them this afternoon, and the owner is glad to have his property back.
Deputies removed locks to gain entry to the house,
Sheriff's office, open up.
whose owners said had been taken over by squatters who claimed to have a legitimate rental lease.
So I'm frustrated.
Paul Callens told me he inherited the home from his father when he died of cancer 2 years ago. He renovated it with his own hands and advertised it online for government-subsidized tenants. He said he never signed a lease with those who entered his home without his permission and changed the locks. I tried to get an explanation from a man inside who wouldn't give his name.
The owner of this house says you all broke into his house illegally 9 days ago.
So check this out. I'm about to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
We rented this property.
He says you didn't rent it.
Well, I'm just telling you what we did. I don't know what you know what I mean, what's going on or whatever.
He says there's no lease agreement, there's no rental
There
agreement,
is
nothing.
one on our end, there is one.
Okay, well, it's not in his.
Isn't it interesting that in some areas, now this is Georgia, but in some areas, the police come and kick out the squatters, and in other areas, well, the owner is left to go through the court system, and it could take 6 months, even a year, to get these squatters out. What's that about? Road rage attacks. And I've said to people who get a little angry behind the wheel, don't. Really try very hard to maintain and get out of the way of people who are pissing you off, because you never know what is going to happen. Today, people are really stressed and, well, triggered. They can resort to violence against you.
He's been charged with aggressive driving before, but nothing like what police say started right here at this intersection on Peachtree Industrial Boulevard in Sugar Hill. I spoke to the victim's father this afternoon. He says his son is recovering. He's back in high school already. They're just thankful this wasn't deadly. This is video that police used to track down the driver in the blue truck days after he's accused of attacking a teen until he was unconscious. Gwinnett County Police say the violent road rage attack led to the arrest of an adult and led to the injury of a high school student.
He eventually lost consciousness, and when he awoke, he and his sister called 911 to report the incident.
The teen victim told police that 57-year-old Dwayne Sutterth flipped him off at Peachtree Industrial Boulevard and R.H. Smith Boulevard, so he flipped him off back. It was last Wednesday at around 2:30 in the afternoon when police say Sutterth drove his truck and followed the teen into a driveway on Buford Dam Road.
The other driver pulled in behind him, approached him on the driver's side, and started to punch him through the driver's side window.
Sutterth is also accused of making disturbing threats toward the victim's younger sister before he drove off.
The suspect made threats to the victim that he was going to sexually assault who he thought was his girlfriend.
Gwinnett County Police tracked down the suspect using flock cameras and arrested him Sunday. Jail records show Sutterth was arrested for aggressive driving in 2017 as well. Police say when dealing with an aggressive driver, it's best to ignore them.
We encourage you to pull into a parking lot or pull over to the side of the road to let the other motorist proceed.
I recommend that too. All right, so, yeah, this is Georgia. That was Georgia. Georgia. What's going on with you, Georgia? Doritos. Okay. You have to no longer buy Doritos or Pepsi. Just hired a self-described pedophile as a brand ambassador. Doritos needs a brand ambassador, I guess. Transgender artist Samantha Hudson, brand ambassador for Doritos.
Yo abogo por aniquilar y destruir por completamente, abolir la familia tradicional.
I advocate the abolition of the family, the nuclear family. Destroy and annihilate the traditional monogamous nuclear family.
Nuclear monógama. No es que vaya a darle una paliza.
Not that I'm going to beat up my parents.
Mis padres, ni mucho menos, pero creo que ya está bien de tener un canon estandarizado. Yo abogo por...
Now that's a good ambassador, don't you think? For Doritos. And I can't read a whole lot of what this woman has been saying, tweeting. It's what's going on with our world. Past tweets from Hudson appear to mock women who have been victims of sexual abuse saying they should be spat on. Okay. She doesn't seem very womanly. Doritos is doubling down on wokeness. So, whatever. Look at this. Look at this Doritos packaging. Oh, really? Are they now using food coloring for their chips? That'll be really good. She has admitted to being a pedophile, identifies as a non-binary trans girl, openly mocked victims of child rape, and an advocate for annihilating, completely destroying, and abolishing the traditional family. Yay! Doritos ambassador. I'm going to play a few minutes of this because this is very concerning. No, you're not living in the United States of America as you knew it. It's a very different country now, and you're getting a lot of signs that it's a very different country, and, well, the difference eventually comes to your door.
So again, this was 3 years ago, and now they're getting around to conservative reporters who have been a thorn in the side of the establishment, who have been locking up peaceful protesters and charging them with felonies. So Blaze Media investigative journalist has now been taken into FBI custody. His name is Stephen Michael Baker. They took him in. Want to see? So you tell me what's interesting to me. Maybe I'm overly suspicious.
Yeah.
But they have two African American FBI guys.
It looks good for the camera.
Is right? Look, they're fighting racism.
Yeah, the FBI always makes sure to do a great
That's what
press
this is.
opportunity. In fact, they always arrest people so they can put it, so the media can film it and it can look like good PR for the FBI. Take that, you racist.
I would hate to say that that's what that is.
What do you mean that? You'd hate to say that? That's literally what that is. They have a whole team that decides whether to do that. Like, that's what that is. It's not a conspiracy. It's how they work.
So writer for the conservative media outlet surrenders to face Capitol riot charges. And there he
rioting?
There he is, standing right next to a cop, not doing nothing. There's a bunch of cops. They're all just standing there.
Oh, my God.
All the cops are just kind of standing there, letting the people. They were giving them escorts inside the Capitol.
Have the police recovered from that trauma yet?
So here he was. So he went and turned himself in.
What did he actually do? That
So
was
we're going to get to that.
I probably don't have a lot to say right now. I need to process for a little while. I'm actually still shaking a little bit. I don't like what I just went through. I don't like the deliberate humiliation that they put me through. There was no reason to do that. There was no reason to march me into a courtroom in leg chains today.
Yeah, for the camera.
In leg chains.
There was somebody there answering for a felony, and they weren't in chains.
He's, by the way, just so I don't want to jump ahead, he's being charged with misdemeanors, and they put him in leg chains when they march. So this is all intimidation. This is all to scare people about being protesters. This is all to scare the media against covering protesters. This is what all this is. This is the people who are saying they're defending democracy being authoritarian fascists. That's what this is. And I have the balls to say it. I have the guts to say it. But very few other people will, outside of right-wing media, will have the guts to say this because there's a price to pay. You're going to lose your shit-lib bona fides. Just like when Jon Stewart told the truth about where the virus came from. He got kicked out of polite society. He had to go hang a medal on a Nazi, do a tongue bath to war criminals, lie about the vaccine. He had to do a lot of things to get back in. And but I'll tell the truth about it, right? Just like I'll tell the truth that the same thing they're doing to Stop Cop City protesters, they're doing to Donald Trump, they're doing to January 6th, and now they're doing to this guy.
So, did he play the video? I had to excuse myself for a second there. Yeah, leg chains. Okay. Yeah, he looks like he needed handcuffs and leg chains. Wow. MSNBC says rural voters are destroying democracy. As they destroyed democracy. Yes, very narcissistic society that we have. And narcissism, one of the chief characteristics of the narcissist is to project out what they do onto others. We all know that, right? Okay, but let's hit the rural voters.
This happened on MSNBC. They bring on these two guys to tell you why you should hate Trump voters. This is basically it.
They have a new scientific book.
But then they end up contradicting themselves. I don't know. Did you see these videos yet?
Yeah, you got
okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Then
yeah, I saw them all right. White rural rage.
Hang on. Let me make sure I got everything. Yeah. Here we go.
Joining us now, Professor of Political Science at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Tom Schaller, and journalist and opinion writer Paul Waldman. Their new book, out tomorrow, is entitled White Rural Rage, The Threat to American Democracy. And Tom, we'll start.
So I just so you know, one of those guys' names is Tom Schaller, and he's a professor of political science at the University of Maryland. He got his undergraduate degree in communications, and on his webpage, he enthuses that his students get, quote, jobs with lobbying firms, political parties, and the media.
Oh, so do you think that he kidnapped white rural rage people in like an advanced UFO and probed them to learn their secrets?
I bet that's what it sounds like. Watch
advanced
this. Watch
scientists.
this.
Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this point?
First of all, I'm going to guess they're a threat to democracy because they vote. Right? That's really the problem, right? They're allowed to vote.
Right,
so I guess totalitarian dictators have a right not to let people vote. Otherwise, that would threaten democracy. Anyway, let's listen.
I think, as we pointed out, looking at Joe Biden's background and Donald Trump's, that the opposite would be true.
I mean, we lay out the fourfold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose.
So the opposite. So why do white rural voters connect with Trump? You think based on Trump and Biden's background, she believes the nonsense stories about him coming from a poor coal family, and who never went to college, and who also lost their kids in a kibbutz on October 7th.
His father's kibbutz and his father and sister hid in their.
Oh, that's right.
In the smoldering ruins of their kibbutz 75 years ago on October 7th, a few months ago.
Okay, here we go.
Joining us now, Professor of Political Science at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Tom Schaller, and journalist and opinion writer Paul Waldman. Their new book, out tomorrow, is entitled White Rural Rage, The Threat to American Democracy. And Tom, we'll start with you. Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this point? You would think, as we pointed out, looking at Joe Biden's background and Donald Trump's, that
how can this news show still be aired? How? How do they even have one viewer? I'll post the link if you want to watch this. It's oh my God. The idiocy, the stupidity, and boy, a whole lot defend themselves with such arrogant hostility. So, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube are down on Super Tuesday, practice run for November. Any of you experiencing I don't know if it's back, but you can guarantee that this is going to be happening more and more. People not being able to connect on social media, power outages, cyber attacks, and that leaves an awful lot of people suffering the consequences. And it's one thing if you're posting, you know, a picture of the breakfast that you're eating versus you need these social medias for your business. And you need connection. That's when it really hurts. So I didn't know YouTube was also down. Anybody hear about YouTube being down? So I heard of this, the subscriber that owns this house couldn't get on Facebook. And then found out an awful lot of other people couldn't get on Facebook. So, and looking at the Super Tuesday map on the states, you know, California, Minnesota. All right, so Facebook and Instagram were down in those states, but not every state. So, who knows? But as we get closer and closer to voting day in America, we're going to see an awful lot. An awful lot. Of not good stuff. So yeah, major outage appears to have rocked Meta's social media platforms on Tuesday morning. Failure to load error pages. Absolutely sick. It is sick. We've got a lot of very disturbed people in our country.
8th was a normal day at this spring antique store until cameras caught the moment a customer in a kilt took a liking to certain items on the shelf.
I had to watch it a couple of times just to be sure that I knew what I was looking at.
Susan Golden has managed the 85,000 square foot shop for 20 years.
I've seen quite a few different things here, but not that. Same day, different dealer.
Golden received a call from a dealer who sent her surveillance video of their section. Cameras show a man in a tank top and kilt grab a kitchen fork or spoon from a display. He then walks over to the other side. His hand stays behind him for a while. He's then seen placing the item back on the shelf.
I realized when he put them back that he wasn't trying to steal them. He was doing other things with them.
He was doing other things with them. Putting them up his butt. So many people are very deranged. Gotta wonder, though, man, is it the electromagnetic frequencies? I'd like to think that it is. At least that provides some alternative to their derangement in terms of their life experience, how they grew up. You know, it relieves a whole lot of humanity, of being accountable for the sickness. But we've got an awful lot who are actually responsible for the sickness. Did you hear that former YouTube CEO's son found dead at UC Berkeley? I didn't hear about this. This was about 2 weeks ago. Susan Wojcicki, I'm still trying to figure out how to pronounce her name. 19-year-old son. Student housing complex found there, and his grandmother confirmed that, yes, her grandson died from a drug overdose. He ingested a drug, and we don't know what was in it. One thing we do know, it was a drug. Wow. I hesitated before including this because I don't want to see all of the people who, would just, oh, good, because they hate her. I really don't want to see anybody hurt or suffer the consequences of this evil. And certainly not, the sons or daughters, because we don't know them, and we don't know, if they were following in suit. We don't know. But I do know Susan is, wow, a piece of evil work. And, oh my God. Biden, VA, Veterans Administration, confirms authenticity of memo to ban iconic World War II photo from facilities. This one. Ban it. Well, the secretary has said, let me be clear, this image is not banned from the VA facilities, and we will keep it in VA facilities. But there was a memo, and it's authentic, that was put out by Rima Ann Nelson, who serves as the Assistant Undersecretary for Health for Operations at the Veterans Health Network. And apparently she's woke. She wants to remove the photo to foster a more trauma-informed environment. To foster a more trauma-informed environment. So what would you prefer? Rima Ann? Would you prefer, I don't know, maybe a picture of soldiers without limbs, bloodied, lying there dead? Nelson directed the photograph's removal from VA facilities over concerns the likely non-consensual nature of the kiss. Well, I guess you got to go back, right? You got to go back and ask this woman if she consented to this soldier kissing her. Okay. Yeah, the likely non-consensual nature of the kiss violated the VA's policies towards sexual harassment and assault. VA employees allegedly said the photograph made them uncomfortable and that its display could suggest the VA endorses the inappropriate behavior it depicts. How do we know? We don't know. But it is an iconic image. World War II, soldiers coming home after their quote-unquote victory. This decision reflects our dedication to creating a respectful and safe workplace. Oh, yeah. Okay. So having an iconic image, right, might make the employees sexually harass one another and make it unsafe. This is how deranged people are today. Oh my God. Yeah, safe working place, and is in keeping with our broader efforts to promote a culture of inclusivity and awareness. It came to represent the relief. This is what the picture represents. It came to represent the relief and joy Americans felt once they realized the war had finally ended. Get rid of it. All right. Truly very sensitive people we got today. No Tesla is safe. Echo terrorists attacked German power grid, causing outage at the Giga factory. The group, Volcano Group, claimed responsibility for an attack on Germany's electricity infrastructure on Tuesday, paralyzing vehicle production at Tesla's European Gigafactory near Berlin. They set it on fire, and it caused 60,000 people in the surrounding area to lose electricity, along with Tesla, along with their factory. They condemn the attack on the Tesla Gigafactory. Well, we really have to be very careful in terms of the actions that we take that may end up causing an awful lot of suffering for innocent people. But it's hard because, well, we let evil spread. Yeah. So a whole lot of innocent people, whatever actions people take to try very hard, to weed out the evil, innocent people will suffer. Do you see this headline? Okay. Do you see this headline? I wish there was real-time engagement, but I just talk to no one. You guys, yes. But do you see this headline? Switching arms for vaccines could help boost your immunity. Study finds. You see it? When your population becomes really stupid, they can say anything, and people won't even question it. Study finds. Study finds. And I like this. David Knight. Here it is.
The technocrats sunk their claws into President Donald Trump, and he rolled over. This is from Patrick Wood at Technocracy News. And he says, and he's got a bullet point here. He's got 6 different items. He says, we got the executive order that Trump signed well before there was anybody dying, right? Claiming that it was a pandemic. And then it set the stage for mRNA and DNA injections. It turned over the design, manufacturing, and distribution to the military. It set up a huge private-public partnership with Big Pharma. And he said it set up a task force that was co-headed by the Secretary of Defense. Operation Warp Speed confirmed the design, the manufacturing, and the distribution by the military. And this was in September of 2019. We just keep getting all this stuff. September 2019, Trump signs this that does all of that. Sets the stage for the mRNA and DNA injections. And you got Fauci the next month at the Milken Institute saying, guy asked him, how do we get everybody in the world to take an untested vaccine? Well, we do it with disruption from the inside, and we do it iteratively. You've got Alex Azar from Eli Lilly, the biggest, the biggest lobbyist that Eli Lilly had, then becomes CEO, and then Trump puts him in as HHS secretary. And he's saying 9 months before this stuff rolled out, back in the spring of 2019, he tells this biodefense agency, I think there's going to be some kind of a pandemic coming from a respiratory virus, and it's going to be really soon. All the rest of the stuff. But, this executive order, this is in writing. This is not just somebody saying something at a convention there. And, of course, Donald Trump, at the same time that Alex Azar was saying that, Donald Trump was saying, not going to give anybody any exemptions for informed consent, not medical exemptions, not religious exemptions. Measles, that's really going around. They got to get the shot, no exceptions for anybody. Don't tell me that he would not have mandated this, because most of Biden's mandates were done in terms of financial coercion and incentives of private companies that did business with the federal government. Of course he would have done it. Would have done it exactly the same way. So when you go back to this executive order that was, Trump does the executive order on Friday the 13th. And that releases the money to the governors so that they can implement the legislation that was passed out to them in December of 2001, 2 months after 9/11 and the anthrax attack that happened the week after that. And of course, 2 months prior to that, there had been the wargaming of Dark Winter. And so all of that was there, just needed to be funded. So that's what Trump did on Friday the 13th. He released the money to get these people to do what had already been laid out and practiced for 20 years. But then 2 months before that, you had Alex Azar say that it was a pandemic. And then we have, 4 months earlier, you got Trump putting out this executive order that says periodically new influenza A viruses emerge from animals, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Sounds like their narrative. This situation is called an influenza pandemic. It has the potential to spread rapidly around the globe with high rates of illness and death. This is reading from his September 2019 executive order from Trump. Most influenza vaccines are made in chicken eggs using a 70-year-old process that requires months-long production timelines, limiting their utility for pandemic control, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, there's also the fact that we had this tradition of testing things. We got rid of that with warp speed, with Trump's warp speed. Then they have the solution part in the second section, and there's a lot of this here. If you want to read more of the details here, they've got this at Technocracy News. The solution was alternative methods, more agile, rapid responses, and all the rest of this stuff, including, this is in the order itself, including cell-based and recombinant vaccine manufacturing through cost-sharing agreements with the private sector, which shall include an agreed-upon pricing strategy during a pandemic. You see, all of this stuff was in place. To say that, and just as I played for you yesterday, Catherine Austin Fitts talking to Greg Hunter, who's, repeating all the talking points of the MAGA cult. Trump didn't know. He was just surrounded by all these deep staters and these people who deceived him and controlled him. Well, it's like, well, then okay, so he doesn't know how to be president. He was completely owned. He was stupid. I don't think so. Neither did Catherine Austin Fitts. She said, no, he knew. He was skeptical about vaccines. He's skeptical about autism. He used that, as I've said, to bid his price up for the pharmaceutical companies. Pfizer giving him $1 million for his inauguration stuff. But he was laying the foundation for this stuff with executive orders he was signing. He knew about vaccines. He knew what he was signing here. They just, he did everything the globalist wanted.
Bada bing. Bada bing. Yeah. I remember those comments when I was posting on Trump. Well, he's new and he just doesn't know. Then he shouldn't have been president. My Lord. People will make any excuse for people who are doing things that are not right, doing things that are wrong, doing things that hurt other people. They'll make any excuse if they like them. All right, I'm going to play, a few minutes of this, but I'm going to put this in the link in the chat. It's 25 minutes, and yeah, it continues, but it continues more obviously, and it's more sinister. And what is that thing? Trapped in a psych ward. Michigan doctor pre-signed blank forms that can rob you of your freedom.
It was something that changed me. I'll never forget it. I'll never get over it.
If you would have told me that something like that happened, I would find it so hard to believe in the United States of America.
Patients alleging they were locked up and held against their will in a psychiatric hospital or coerced into staying for treatment for illnesses they say they do not have.
It's the epitome of evil. It's the epitome of greed.
We are talking about people having their civil rights taken away, basically being held against their will without due process.
I'm 7 investigator Heather Catallo. Since the middle of the pandemic, I've been digging into these allegations, talking with patients and former employees. I've poured over hundreds of pages of documents, and what I've discovered is creating more questions than answers about our mental health system.
I don't want her to go back there.
Very few people have been willing to talk publicly about what's going on behind the closed doors of a locked psychiatric ward. But now patients, parents, and employees are coming forward to talk to us about what they say are their experiences with the psychiatric treatment at some local hospitals and with psychiatrist Dr. Nagy Kier.
So what do you say to these people that say what you're doing is totally unethical?
I'm not aware of that, what you're saying.
After we started asking questions in the courts about Dr. Kier last spring, he suddenly resigned from one of the hospitals where he was in charge. But he's still working at least 2 others where patients say he has all the power over them.
And he said, no, you're going to be staying here with us. You're bipolar.
They describe a system that uses the courts or the threat of the courts to keep patients locked up longer than necessary. And the 7 investigators have discovered a crucial court form that can rob you of your freedom that's being signed long before a psychiatrist ever examines you. But before we explore all of that, it's important to understand how you end up in a psychiatric hospital in the first place. According to therapists, patients in crisis usually first go to the closest emergency room, either by choice or because a police officer, family member, or doctor thinks they're a danger to themselves or others. Once you're at the hospital emergency room, you're placed in a psych holding area. When a bed at a psychiatric hospital opens up, you're transferred. Then, according to state law, you're supposed to see a psychiatrist within 24 hours.
I've never been treated so poorly, like I wasn't a human being.
Bree Jackson says after she lost her job and her health insurance in 2022, she ran out of her antidepressant medication. When she qualified for Medicaid, she went to a family doctor to try to get her medication refilled.
Were you suicidal?
No, not at all. And I cannot stress this enough. I went there to get medication.
When Bree filled out her doctor's assessment form, she answered yes to the questions about feeling hopeless and depressed. The 38-year-old from Oak Park says she just wanted her antidepressants so she could stop feeling sad.
He suggested that I go to Ascension Providence ER to see a psychiatrist. He did say you may be able to do a 1-day inpatient.
Thinking a psychiatrist could refill her antidepressants and provide therapy, Bree drove herself to the emergency room. But that's when she says everything fell apart.
I was crying because I was locked in a ward and I didn't know what was going to happen.
Bree says she never saw a psychiatrist, and that's not all.
Can I make a phone call? Can I go call my mom? Can I go call my brother? Can I leave this area? And the answer was no.
Bree later found out a social worker at Ascension filled out this petition for the court, stating Bree reported suicidal ideation. She denies being suicidal. And that's not all. Bree says she learned a doctor signed this clinical certificate. Both the petition and the certificate are court documents used to hospitalize someone against their will, and doctors and psychiatrists fill them out under penalty of perjury. The clinical certificate also labels Bree with a diagnosis of psychosis, even though psychosis is not mentioned anywhere else in her medical records. Bree says the doctor who signed that form never examined her, and his name does not appear anywhere in her medical records that we reviewed from that Ascension Hospital stay.
And I'm like, I didn't see this doctor. I don't have psychosis. What is this? And I'm starting to get a little bit frazzled. I'm reading them the law that I have to see a psychiatrist. I'm here voluntarily, and they're like, that petition says, no, you aren't.
You see, Bree has a law degree and knows her rights.
They didn't believe me.
Despite multiple requests for interviews, officials here at Ascension refused to talk to us about why Bree was held and about why a doctor who allegedly never saw her signed the paperwork to commit her.
After 3 days in the Providence ER, Bree says she was then transferred involuntarily to Pontiac General Hospital. At first, she says she hoped they would realize a mistake had been made and let her go home.
I get the paperwork that I am to sign in voluntarily. If I don't do it, they can then take these petitions and court orders that they have yet to file up until this point. Everyone's using it to keep me there, but hasn't been filed in any court. They could take those, file them, and then I would have to stay there until the hearing, which could be up to 30 days.
So Bree signed herself in, believing she could leave in just a day. Instead, she says she was held for another 9 days, and she says she quickly learned that inside the psych ward, you need to lie.
I found out, talking with the other girls, do what I can to get out of here, meant I wasn't going to see this psychiatrist to be wholly treated. I was going to tell him what he wanted to hear. So that's what I did. I felt in no way I was getting therapy or treatment. Why do I need to be here?
While Bree was at Pontiac General, her records indicate she was under the care of the hospital's chief psychiatrist at the time, Dr. Nagy Kier. Dr. Kier not only ran the entire psychiatry program at Pontiac for 7 years, since 2019 until last April, Kier had also been in charge of teaching Pontiac General's psychiatry residents. They all reported to him.
There is no having a conversation with Dr. Kier. Somebody told me, you say yes, no, or okay to him. Otherwise, you could be put there longer. You say nothing to him if you want to go home.
Bree says most days she saw a different psychiatrist who, according to her records, consistently diagnosed her with depression. But on the day she was approved for discharge, medical records show she was suddenly diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And then Dr. Kier signed off in her chart.
He never mentioned it. It was news to me when I get out and I read my discharge papers. I mean, when you look at these things all together, that's why I think it's about money. Because to get me there, you can't just say I'm depressed. You can't just say I'm sad.
Bree is not the only patient who alleges they had problems with the system.
She's now traumatized from what has happened to her at Pontiac General Hospital.
Okay, the link is in the chat again. You can listen to other stories, but we've got a problem. Houston, we've got a problem. And psychiatrists, on the whole, not everyone, but on the whole, have destroyed so many lives. Still can't even stop them. Their bullshit profession have destroyed many lives, including my own. So, here we go. Migrants. 5 men involved in fatal hit and run of a man in his 70s in Florida, Levy County.
The 5 men in the van that hit and killed a motorcyclist from Fort McCoy last weekend were all undocumented immigrants. The FHP arrest report identified Demetrio Moreno Alahua as the driver, as well as 4 passengers. The investigator called them all, quote, illegal aliens. They're accused of hitting the 74-year-old and leaving him, instead running away. Moreno Atlahua faces a pair of felonies and is being held on no bond. Court and jail records do not show the other 4 in custody. The 5 men in the van that hit and killed a motorcyclist from Fort McCoy last weekend were all undocumented immigrants.
5 illegal aliens charged with murdering a 15-year-old boy in Maryland. Okay. They're just here for the American dream. Frederick County, Maryland. Wow, man, we've got a whole lot of very violent illegal migrants coming in, and not everyone is, but we've got a whole lot. So when you look at what's happening in Haiti, think, could that come to your nearby city or the city that you live in, like New York? Yes, it can, because we are allowing gangs to come in, very violent gangs, Venezuelan gangs, El Salvadorian gangs, and guess what? It's not going to be good. Connecticut governor wants to eliminate the distinguishing marks on driver's licenses for illegal immigrants, making it impossible to identify ineligible voters. Change will cost taxpayers $250,000. So you won't know who is undocumented versus documented. Migrants breaking into a house in Dayton, Ohio. No, things are not going to be swell. Government admission. Biden parole flights create security vulnerabilities at U.S. airports. Now, we have known for a very long time that they are flying illegal migrants into our country. They're not just walking across the border. Our presidents and former presidents are involved in this, asking people to donate to certain NGOs to fly them into our country. And I've posted an awful lot. In fact, I came across one of those videos that I posted here in Westchester, New York. Biden's secret flights, remember this? Bringing illegals from El Paso into Westchester late at night.
We don't tell them where we're going. Like I said, a lot of this is just...
No, I get it. I just, like I said...
stuff that we don't tell people. Because what we don't want to do is attract attention. We don't want the media.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even know where we're going when they tell us.
Yeah. Right. Obviously.
I get the whole secrecy and all this but this is even above my thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
And why? You know why?
You know why?
Yeah, I know, but why? Yeah.
That's why. Come on.
No, but what's the big secret? Everybody knows it's happening.
You know why? Because if it gets out, the government's betraying the American people.
We don't tell them where we're going. Like I said, a lot of this is just...
If it gets out, it has gotten out. Americans have known. Okay? You still have the willfully ignorant who defend their willful ignorance. But even mainstream media was reporting a couple of years ago on these secret flights, not just going to Westchester, but other places in our country. Secret flights. What is that about? Oh, the government betraying the American people. Treason, it's called. Hello? We've got treason up the wazoo. Response? Maybe? Well, okay, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has approved secretive flights that last year alone ferried hundreds of thousands of inadmissible aliens from foreign airports into some 43 American ones, pre-approved on a cell phone app. The Biden administration's legally dubious program to fly inadmissible aliens over the border and directly to U.S. airports has allegedly created law enforcement vulnerabilities to a grave to release publicly. All right, so Border Patrol has withheld from the Center for Immigration Studies, which I will post the link, and you might want to bookmark this website because they've got an awful lot on what is going on with our migrant issue. So they withheld from the center and apparently will not disclose the names of the 43 U.S. airports that have received 320,000 illegal migrants from January through December 2023, nor the foreign airports from which they departed. The answer from the government on this issue was the public can't know the receiving airports because those hundreds of thousands of CBP authorized arrivals have created such operational vulnerabilities at airports that bad actors could undermine law enforcement efforts to secure the United States border if they knew the volume of the CBP one traffic processed at each port of entry. Gee, I think the answer is we just don't want the public to know. Government characterizes these programs as family reunification programs. 7 of the nationalities, excluding Venezuelans and Nicaraguans, can claim eligibility under older family reunification parole programs. All can also just fly in if they can show they have a non-family financial sponsor, which can even be an organization, business, or other entity. Get it? We have an awful lot going on. And our government is destroying us. Our government is actually attacking Americans by flooding the country with these illegal migrants. An awful lot are committing crimes. Americans, innocent Americans, suffering the consequences of this. Where are Americans? Why aren't they screaming? What the hell is going on? It's pretty, well, your government can do anything when the people just don't care. I don't know you, maybe you care. When I say things like this, don't take it personally, okay? It's obvious that a whole lot of Americans do not care about anything. It's obvious. We're going down because of it. And listen, John Kirby, you listen to liars all the time, Americans. Because, why? Because you never held anybody accountable for their lies. My entire life. 65 years, we haven't held anybody accountable. Lying is just what we do. Even ordinary Americans. That's how we communicate with one another. That's why you don't have an awful lot of Americans with real solid friendships, families. Blow them up, you know.
The state of the president, that seems to be the issue that is really cropping up in these polls, John.
Well, look, I can't speak for the polling numbers. I can just tell you, speaking for the president, that he is 100% engaged in the job of being commander-in-chief and president of the United States. And again, through his leadership, all these domestic things have improved, as well as our footing on the world stage. This is a president who is actively engaged every single day. I've seen it for myself.
Okay, let's get to some of that specifically. You say he's actively engaged, and yet, according to his former Border Patrol chief, who spoke out on 60 Minutes, Raul Ortiz, he never spoke with the president the entire time he was the border chief, overseeing 21,000 agents, or the vice president. Given the fact that this is the #1 issue for voters in every primary state we've covered so far, John, how is that possible?
Well, you saw the president down at Brownsville last week, Martha. It's his second visit down to the border. He obviously has a close relationship with Secretary Mayorkas and everybody at DHS. He had a chance to meet directly with border agents down there in Brownsville. This is an issue he knows is important to the American people. It's important to him. And frankly, Martha, that's why it was so important for the Senate to pass that bipartisan bill, which included significant changes, not only in border security, but immigration policy. And now it's languishing because the House won't take it up. The president's willing to negotiate and compromise and talk about all these things and move forward. That's why I asked
John,
for that national security supplement.
How has he never spoken to, and you know what, we did some reporting on this earlier today, not only Raul Ortiz, the former chief of the Border Patrol, but the current chief of the Border Patrol, Chief Owens, who you pointed out he did meet with in Brownsville, but from what we can find out, they had never spoken before that. How is that possible?
Well, the president's engaged with the DHS. He's engaged with leadership there.
But why not the Border Patrol?
He's engaged with the Border Patrol. Martha, he was just down there at Brownsville meeting and talking to those folks directly and hearing from them
But he never met with
about the situation on the ground.
Or current chief. The current chief he just met has been president for 3 years, just met him the other day.
He again is engaged with everybody at DHS, including the Border Patrol, down there at Brownsville, talking to them on the ground, hearing from them directly about what their concerns are.
Okay, but just to confirm that record, you're telling they never met before Thursday, correct?
Look, I don't have the president's daily.
So all we do is listen to liars. That's what. That's all we do is listen to liars. I don't know about you guys, but it's so upsetting to me. It makes me sick. Everybody's just lying. There's nothing substantive that's good in our country. Man. And yeah, so Governor of New York, Hochul, is she's ready to open up government jobs to illegal migrants. Like, there's not a lot of New Yorkers that need jobs.
Can you send some of the migrants up here? We need them. I hear this in every corner of the state.
Governor Kathy Hochul's administration.
Send the migrants up here? Wow. Okay, I thought they were trying to stop the migrants from coming into New York. No, now we're going to send more because there's so many government jobs that need to be filled.
Recently agreed to a proposal that could make it easier for migrants to get temporary jobs in state government. Approved earlier this month, the Civil Service Commission is working with agencies to implement the changes, which include dropping typical application requirements like proof of a high school diploma or proficiency in English.
I have 10,000 openings in the New York State workforce, from our operations to SUNY. I have 10,000 openings. So this is to give options for people, but to say we are working intensely to get work authorization applications. These are all legal people.
The goal is to make it faster.
They're all legal people. She lied outright. They're not legal people. They're not. Just because your government official says they're legal doesn't mean they're legal. They're lying. She's going to open up all of these government jobs for people who aren't even proficient in English and don't need a high school diploma. Now, your government doesn't operate efficiently as it is. How do you think that's going to go over? Just 5 of New York's 62 counties are accepting illegal aliens through the state's migrant relocation program, which pays a year's rent to any migrant family that moves out of New York City. A year's rent. Don't you think there's an awful lot of residents, documented residents, that might need that help? No, give it to the illegal migrants. Okay, again, I'll say, this is all under the umbrella of the United Nations Compact for Migration. It's all purposeful. It's not climate change that's bringing this about. Most are not seeking asylum. United Nations, NGOs, governments, all are working. All are working. Bringing all of these migrants into Western nations. It is purposeful, it's deliberate, and if you refuse to see this, you are someone who has an agenda. You are somebody who can't handle the truth that your government is destroying your life. They're treasonous. They're lying. This is in violation of immigration law. They're violating the law. And Americans, where the fuck are you?
So last summer, New York State offered to help by launching a $25 million migrant relocation program, paying an entire year's rent for every migrant family that chooses to move out of the city. The problem is New York's suburban communities don't want them. Just 5 of the state's 62 counties are accepting migrant relocations, including Suffolk County. But today, a county spokesperson tells Fox it's now reevaluating. Quote, Suffolk County is not, nor will it be, a sanctuary city, and we have not agreed to accepting undocumented migrants. We are working with the state on clarification of the program. Rockland County's Republican executive Ed Day says this is the city's problem.
Because you asked for it. You're a sanctuary city. We're not. The fact of the matter is we don't have the ability to do it.
So last summer, New York State offered to help by launching a $25 million migrant relocation program, paying an entire year's rent for every migrant family that chooses to move out of the city. The problem is New York's suburban communities don't want them.
Entire year's rent. American journalist threatened by migrant smugglers in Arizona for recording a hotel that has been turned into a shelter for illegals. Tucson.
We are here in Tucson, Arizona. Right behind me is a shelter that is being used to house illegal immigrants. Right here, we have my good friend Cesar. We're going to be sending Cesar in. He's got a bunch of cameras on him, and he's going to be showing us what it's really like inside the shelter. Bien suerte, mi amigo. Vamos.
This is one of the many hotels that has been transformed into a shelter to house all these migrants here in Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we're from Mexico. Senegal. Senegal. Oh, Senegal. I like smoke. No smoke. Smoke? Yeah. Oh. Amigo, ¿cómo está? Mexico. You? Africa. What part? ¿Dónde eres, amigo? ¿Dónde eres? ¿Dónde? ¿Senegal? Senegal.
My friend Caesar managed to sneak into where they were all sleeping, and the bathrooms were absolutely trashed. Later that night, I went back to see if I could get in, but as I got closer to the hotel, a new arrival of migrants had just been dropped off at the hotel.
¿Acaban de llegar? Buenas noches, buenas noches. ¿De dónde son ustedes?
Los Mochis. México.
¿De México? Bueno, yo no trabajo aquí.
As the migrants were getting their rooms for the night, a worker came and verbally attacked me.
Are you even supposed to be here?
What do you mean? I can't come look?
No, this is private property right now. It's for immigrants.
Okay. Yeah, I'll leave.
Well, then get the out of here,
Okay.
We're gonna call the cops.
Nos bajamos del camión y de que nos bajamos nos empezó a bajar.
Yeah, have a good one. What do you mean? What?
And she did call the cops on me, and another bus of migrants arrived.
Is that a bus filled with illegal immigrants behind you?
I'm not sure.
You know it's a bus. Don't lie to me.
All right, guys. Do you guys have any other questions about
Why did you just lie to me?
trespassing and going on the property?
Is that a bus filled with illegal immigrants?
Sir, I'm not on the bus.
Look behind.
Sweden pays Syrian rapist 80,000 euros in damages. Because I guess he was... I literally paid a Syrian migrant 80,000 because they were too harsh in sentencing him for abducting a woman and raping her because he was under 18. Haiti violence. Just look at this, and then think about the millions of illegal migrants and how many gang members and the cartel members coming into our country and what might happen.
One by one, two.
Regardez un petit blanc.
Like a fun.
Rapport de police nationale d'Haïti, rapport des militaires pour prendre responsabilité, arrêter Ariel Henry et encore une fois, et pas peuple qui est le pas les Gazam qui est le
you want to check out more, I will post the link. It's an hour long, but if you don't think that our cities, especially, could descend into something like this, then I think you've got the happy-hopey kind of thinking, not realistic thinking. It's going to get very bad. And yeah, I don't know if you heard this, but wow.
To ensure Israel is secure and to respect the right of the Palestinian people to dignity, freedom, and self-determination. Hamas claims it wants a ceasefire. Well, there is a deal on the table. And as we have said, Hamas needs to agree to that deal. An immediate ceasefire.
It's a little late in the game, don't you think, Kamala? It's a little late for you to be standing up there calling for a 6-week ceasefire. Not a full-out ceasefire. Not allowing Palestinians to have the right to actually live their lives without being controlled by the Zionist government in Israel. No. No.
For at least the next 6 weeks, which is what is currently on the table. This will get the hostages out and get a significant amount of aid in. This would allow us to build something more enduring, to ensure Israel is secure.
Israel is secure. Okay. This has been going on for decades and decades and decades. We're going to call for a temporary ceasefire to allow for something more enduring. Well, we know what's enduring. The apartheid lifted. But, hey, can't do that. All right, I'm going to put the link in to Richard Medhurst. He talking about the New York Times, and well, if you don't know anything about this, just listen. It's amazing to me that people could still see the New York Times as the paper of record, as this prestigious publication, when all it does is lie. It's the prestigious propaganda publication, for sure, for the state. But how is it that people are still, it's like MSNBC. How do they have people watching that? How do they have people reading the New York Times at this point? At this point, when their lies have been exposed for decades. I don't get it.
So you guys remember that the Israelis made this ridiculous claim on October 7th that there was mass rape. And of course, we didn't believe them because there's no evidence. I'm still waiting to this day for one shred of evidence. There's none. And ironically, I should point out there is a mountain of evidence of Israelis raping Palestinians, men, women, children. This is Israeli army, Israeli guards, and the Israeli army even rape the women in the army. There's tons and tons of cases like this. Just look it up yourselves. If you don't want to go watch the videos I did, the best part is I'm using Israeli sources to prove it. So it's not even like you have to go look that far. But in any case, I want to show you something because the central claim that this came from was a New York Times story, or stories, I should add, and they were written by the same three people. Okay, and I'm going to expose some things to you that many have covered. Gray Zone and Intifada and Intercepting. And others and Squirrel, and so the thing is that what I have said from the very beginning is that, look, I don't need to know that the people at the New York Times are corrupt. I know they're corrupt. Yeah, as long as there's no evidence, I'm not buying it, because the Israelis lie all the time. Okay, so what I'm about to show you is not necessary to know that they lied. We know that they fucking lied because there's no proof. So that, just to be clear. And another thing you have to understand is that Hamas planned this very carefully, with exceptional operational security. The fact that you could organize something like this without any leaks, an airtight ship, and then execute this as from a military point of view, from a strategic point of view, it is exceptional. And so just ask yourselves, these are highly disciplined, highly trained, exceptional fighters. Do you really think that they did all this just so they could supposedly rape a bunch of Israelis? I mean, I'm sorry, I don't buy this. This is ridiculous. You have to also remember that these are not just any fighters. I mean, it's Hamas. They are. If you look at Hezbollah, it's the same thing. They are guided by Islamic principles. So it's they have a very strict code of rules for war. And I should remind you that 1,000 years before there was any Geneva Convention or Hague Convention, the Arabs are the ones who came up with these rules that, you shouldn't execute the women and children or execute prisoners of war. You should treat them fairly. The Arabs came up with this. They came up with these things. They actually employed these things in war 1,000 years before Europeans even thought to write these things down. So you should remember that. In any case, let me proceed to show you what's going on. So you have these three people at the New York Times who wrote a lot of these stories. Okay, Adam Sella, Anat Schwartz, and Jeffrey Gettleman. Okay. Now, these people are all Zionists and Jewish, okay? What makes this even more scandalous is that Anat Schwartz is from the Israeli army, okay? So she was in Israeli army intelligence, and she brought in this guy, Adam Sella, who is her nephew by marriage. So basically, this woman, Anat Schwartz, she got married, and the person she married has a nephew called Adam Sella. And so she brought on her nephew by marriage to write these stories about mass rape, in Gaza, or rather in these kibbutz. And these people, first of all, none of them have any experience covering this issue at all. Okay, but not only that, this Adam Sella is a food reviewer, has written articles about food, cooking, like actual food. And I just want you to ask yourselves, like, one of them is an official propagandist for the Israelis. Her nephew is a food reviewer. And these are the people that are the sources for the New York Times, the supposed paper of record. And they're bullshit rape stories. I mean, it's so incredible how difficult it is for them, how hard they try to reach and make things up. Whereas if you look at how Israelis rape Palestinians, there are so many stories. We'll be here all night. And it's not just Palestinians that they've raped and assaulted. It's also, even among their own ranks, you got Israeli women being raped by, or sexually assaulted by the Israeli men in the army. That's how rampant it is, And I feel that before I continue, it's a good moment to show you this clip from CNN. Listen.
You mentioned sexual violence. I was part of the human rights vetting process for arms going to Israel, and a charity called Defense of Children International Palestine drew our attention at the State Department to the sexual assault, actually the rape of a 13-year-old boy that occurred in an Israeli prison in the Mosque Bia in Jerusalem. We examined these allegations. We believed they were credible. We put them to the government of Israel. And you know what happened the next day? The IDF went into the DCIP offices and removed all their computers and declared them a terrorist entity. I think it is vital that atrocities not happen to anyone, not sexual violations, not any kind of gross violation of human rights. You mentioned sexual
So again, do you understand what he said? They found a credible case of children being raped by Israelis. They put these accusations to the Israeli government, and then the Israeli government responded by declaring them a terrorist organization and confiscating their computers. So much for Israeli democracy and accountability. I swear to God, every single thing, every single one, down to the tiniest detail, every single accusation that Israelis make about Palestinians is not just made up. It's real, but it's something that Israel has done to the Palestinians. And it's backed up by proof, by evidence. That's the difference. Is that you can fucking prove this. The Israelis can't prove a fucking thing. You have to believe them. I'm supposed to believe a private screening that you gave to a bunch of corporate journalists. Guess what? I'm fucking not believing it because you have a track record of lying more than anyone on the fucking planet. I will do everything except fucking believe you until you show me evidence. 4 months later, no evidence. And guess what? These people have been ratted out. They've been exposed as a bunch of frauds. Someone who's reviewing Peanuts is now an expert in mass rape as a weapon of war. Jesus,
I just got a presidential alert. It's a presidential alert. My first presidential alert. This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. The purpose is to maintain and improve alert and warning capabilities at the federal, state, local, tribal, territorial levels and to evaluate the nation's public alert and warning capabilities. No action is required by the public. Just now. And it was very loud. Okay, well, interesting, isn't it? Presidential alert. I don't know if you can see this. It's a glare. Look at that. Anybody else get it? Well, that's the first. Anyway, oh, life. So, yeah, New York Times lies all the time, and this Anat Schwartz had no experience writing, for the New York Times. It was a front page article, front page. But the New York Times, after it came out and she was exposed, well, they let her go. That's the New York Times. They will lie about anything. Anything. But what Richard Medhurst has to say in this video, it's worthy of listening to. And YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. You have buffering. That was a text. Live keeps cutting out. When did that start? Did the buffering just start when I got this alert? And I guess the buffering is still going on. This is a mobile hotspot I'm working off of. So You're in southern Arizona, and you didn't get anything. Why did I get it? It's been doing it for 10 minutes? Well, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what to do about it because this is all I have here. The Democrats found me. That is very strange, and it's also very strange because I should have heard my the subscriber's phone going off as well. Well, other people are not experiencing the buffering, so who knows? Who knows what's going on? But do you see that a lot is going on? And yes, an awful lot is going on that should concern everybody. I sure hope that all of you are prepared, you know, for what is coming down the pike, because what we've already lived shows us. It's the evidence that everything is getting far worse. And it's not going to get any better because, well, in order for things to get better, Americans have to unite and do something about it. And that's just not going to happen. We know that. So, all right, I'm going to end the live. That was very weird. I thought, okay, is it going to be an Amber Alert? Presidential alert? Okay, so, yeah, get out there, bring your best self to life, help those in need. Don't wait to be asked. Extend yourself, pick up extra food when you're shopping, drop it off at a pantry, pick up extra dog food, cat food, drop it off at your local animal shelter. There is not any of these shelters that are not in need. So be the person who picks up extra stuff and drops it off. Okay? Yeah. It's important. And tell others to do it. Others that, you know, you within your social network, your family, your friends, and your community. Okay? It's important. Very important. There are things that we can do. A whole lot. Don't do it. Well, we've got to change. We've got to do it. So, on that note, I say thank you for showing up. I hope to see you tomorrow night. Please, all of you, stay safe. And remember, presidential alert. They want to keep us all safe. What are we living? Okay. All right. Good night and good luck. Ciao, guys.